There's an old saying in America, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. For thousands of European visitors in the summer of 2026, America didn't just make a first impression, it made one they'll probably talk about for the rest of their lives. They arrived expecting soccer. The world's biggest tournament had finally come to North America. 48 nations, more than 100 matches, millions of fans crossing oceans with jerseys packed neatly beside passports and cameras. For many Europeans, this was the trip of a lifetime. They imagined roaring stadiums, famous skylines, and perhaps a stop at a classic diner or a drive down an endless American highway. But America had another surprise waiting, one that wasn't listed on any match schedule, one that no travel guide could truly prepare them for. They landed just as the United States was celebrating its 250th birthday, a milestone unlike any in the nation's history. Almost overnight, their vacation became something much bigger than sports. It became an invitation into America's biggest family celebration.
The first clue came before they ever reached the stadium. From airplane windows, passengers spotted neighborhoods shimmering with red, white, and blue. Flags waved from front porches. Banners stretched across small town streets. Even pickup trucks seemed dressed for the occasion. One traveler laughed quietly and whispered, "Wait, is everyone decorating for the same event?" The answer was yes, but that was only the beginning. As rental cars rolled through suburban neighborhoods, visitors noticed something unexpected. Nobody seemed to be in a hurry. Children pedaled bicycles with tiny American flags fluttering behind them. Grandparents unfolded lawn chairs hours before sunset. Someone was already lighting a charcoal grill, and the unmistakable smell of burgers drifted through the warm summer air. If these streets could talk, they would probably say, "Pull up a chair, there's always room for one more." For Americans, scenes like these feel almost ordinary. They've grown up with them. Backyard cookouts, neighbors borrowing folding tables, kids chasing fireflies while someone checks on the ribs. It's simply what summer feels like. But through European eyes, it looked almost cinematic, like stepping inside one of those classic American movies they had watched growing up. Some joked that they were waiting for Tom Hanks to appear around the corner. Others said it felt strangely familiar, like memories they'd somehow borrowed from films such as The Sandlot or Forrest Gump. The movies, it turned out, hadn't exaggerated everything.
Then something even more surprising happened. Strangers began smiling. Not the polite smile of someone passing by, the kind that comes with a conversation.
Happy 4th of July, baby!
This is the last big firework.
Happy 4th. Where y'all visiting from? You folks having fun yet? One British visitor admitted later that he'd barely walked 2 blocks before someone invited him to join a neighborhood barbecue. Another couldn't believe people kept offering directions, restaurant recommendations, and even spare lawn chairs for the evening fireworks. Similar reactions appeared repeatedly in videos and online discussions from European travelers experiencing Independence Day for the first time. At first, many wondered, are Americans really this friendly, or is everyone just celebrating? The answer, they would soon discover, was a little bit of both. Because the 4th of July isn't simply a holiday on the American calendar. It's the one day when millions of ordinary people don't just celebrate their country, they open it. And before the first firework ever touched the sky, European visitors were already beginning to see an America that no headline, documentary, or social media post could ever fully capture. But when the sun finally began to set, they realized the real celebration hadn't even started yet. As evening settled over America, something curious began to happen.
Parking lots filled faster than shopping malls on Black Friday. Parks transformed into oceans of picnic blankets. Small-town main streets closed to traffic as marching bands tuned their instruments, veterans adjusted their uniforms, and children eagerly searched the sky, wondering when the first firework would appear. To many Europeans, it felt less like a national holiday and more like the world's biggest neighborhood reunion. One traveler looked around and laughed. Does everybody in this country know each other? Of course they didn't, but for one summer evening, it almost seemed that way. There's another old American saying, home is where the heart is. On the 4th of July, that heart doesn't stay inside the house. It spills into front yards, sidewalks, lake shores, and town squares. More than a holiday, Independence Day becomes something people create together. Families travel long distances to reunite, grills are fired up from coast to coast, and neighborhoods become gathering places where celebrations are shared rather than simply watched. That explains why visitors kept noticing something they hadn't expected. No one seemed interested in celebrating alone. Someone always brought extra hamburgers, someone always had another folding chair, someone always asked, "Have you eaten yet?" For Americans, these small gestures hardly seem remarkable. They're simply part of the day. But to newcomers, they spoke volumes. One British tourist later admitted that the biggest surprise wasn't the fireworks. It was being invited to a family cookout by people he'd met only minutes earlier. Similar stories echoed across videos shared by British and European visitors, many describing how quickly strangers made them feel welcome. Sometimes a country's character isn't revealed in its monuments, it's revealed around its dinner table.
Then came the parades. At first glance, they looked familiar enough. Marching bands, classic cars polished until they gleamed in the afternoon sun. Fire trucks flashing bright red lights. Veterans waving from convertibles. Children stretching their hands toward volunteers, tossing candy into the crowd. But the longer visitors watched, the more they realized these weren't performances for tourists. These parades belonged to the communities themselves. Parents cheered for children marching with their school bands. Neighbors applauded neighbors. Local businesses decorated floats with handmade banners. It wasn't polished like Hollywood. It was something better. It was real. One European visitor smiled after watching a parade roll through a small town. It feels like the whole town showed up. In many places, they had. As daylight slowly faded, another tradition quietly unfolded. People didn't rush to leave. Instead, they waited. Children spread blankets across the grass. Teenagers tossed footballs back and forth. Grandparents pointed toward the horizon, already guessing where the fireworks would begin. The smell of popcorn mixed with fresh-cut grass. Country music drifted through portable speakers. Somewhere nearby, an ice cream truck played a familiar tune that made adults smile as much as the kids. For older Americans, evenings like this carried echoes of childhood. The kind of summers when parents called, "Be home before the streetlights come on," before smartphones, before streaming, before life felt quite so busy. For just one night, time seemed to slow down. European visitors noticed it too. This wasn't simply patriotism, it was nostalgia being passed from one generation to the next. And just when they thought the evening couldn't become any more memorable, the lights across the town dimmed. Thousands of conversations softened. All eyes turned toward the darkening sky, because the moment everyone had been waiting for was finally about to begin. Then, without anyone making an announcement, the atmosphere changed. Only moments earlier, children had been laughing. Friends were chatting over paper plates piled with barbecue. Somewhere, someone was finishing a game of cornhole, while another family hurried across the grass carrying blankets and coolers. Then, the first notes of the Star-Spangled Banner drifted through the warm evening air. Almost instantly, people stopped. Conversations faded. Caps came off. Hands found hearts, and thousands of faces turned toward the same flag. For many European visitors, this wasn't the surprising part. What surprised them was how naturally it happened. No one shouted instructions, no one told people what to do. It was as though an invisible thread connected everyone at once.
There's an old saying, seeing is believing. For many Europeans, America had always been a place described by someone else. A place viewed through movies, news reports, social media, or secondhand opinions. But standing in the middle of a neighborhood filled with laughter, sharing a hamburger with people they'd met only hours before, watching grandparents smile as children waved tiny flags beneath a sky exploding with color, they finally saw something no screen could fully capture. Not a perfect country, no nation is, but a country whose traditions are kept alive not by monuments or government buildings, by ordinary families, by neighbors, by communities, by millions of people who celebrate freedom in the simplest ways imaginable. Sharing a meal, opening their homes, cheering at a parade, or looking up together as fireworks light the summer sky. Perhaps that's why so many visitors returned home talking less about the attractions and more about the people. Because the 4th of July didn't simply show them how Americans celebrate, it showed them why they celebrate. Sometimes it takes seeing a country through the eyes of a visitor to remind the people who live there just how extraordinary the familiar can be. And perhaps the greatest souvenir those European tourists carried home wasn't a jersey or a photograph or even a video of fireworks. It was the realization that behind America's biggest celebration lies something timeless. A belief that the best memories are made when family, friends, neighbors, and even strangers come together. And for one unforgettable 4th of July, they weren't just watching America. For a little while, they became part of its story.